unfolded mysteries. The Johnson family had been looking forward to their road trip for months. It was meant to be a peaceful escape from their busy lives, a chance to bond and make lasting memories. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the desolate road stretched ahead of them, their peaceful adventure took a chilling turn. It had been a long day of driving, and the family found themselves on a remote stretch of highway with no gas station in sight. The gas gauge stubbornly hovered just above E, and anxiety set in. What was supposed to be a fun journey had suddenly become a nerve-wracking ordeal. As the car came to a sputtering halt, John, the father, sighed in frustration. The nearest gas station was miles away, and the darkness of the night was descending like an ominous shroud. They had no choice but to wait. His wife, Sarah, insisted that he should go and fetch the fuel. She assured him that she and the kids would be fine waiting in the car under the glow of the full moon. John reluctantly agreed, kissed Sarah and their 2 children, Lily and Ethan, on their foreheads, and embarked on the long walk to the gas station. The minutes turned to hours, and the car grew colder with each passing moment. The wind outside howled like a mournful cry, and Sarah wrapped her arms around the kids, doing her best to keep their spirits high. They played games and told stories to pass the time, but an underlying unease lingered in the air. As the night deepened, a bone-chilling sensation washed over Sarah. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She peered out into the inky darkness surrounding the car but saw nothing. It was as if the very night itself was observing their predicament. Just as she was about to dismiss her fears as mere imagination, she heard a soft tapping on the car window. It was faint at first, but it grew more insistent. Lily and Ethan, wide-eyed with fear, clung to their mother. Sarah's heart pounded as she turned to see a figure standing in the moonlight just beyond the window. It was a man, but something about him was terribly wrong. His face was pale and gaunt, and his eyes were empty, devoid of any emotion or humanity. His ragged clothes hung from his skeletal frame, and his fingers scratched against the glass like the claws of a desperate creature. Terror coursed through Sarah as she locked eyes with the grotesque figure. She started the engine, determined to get away from the horror that had emerged from the night. As the car roared to life, the figure let out a guttural, mournful wail, and she hit the gas pedal. The car tore down the highway, leaving the nightmarish figure behind. Sarah could feel her children's hearts racing in tandem with her own. They were safe, but the memory of the horrifying encounter lingered, a chilling reminder of the dangers that could emerge in the darkness. Finally, hours later, John returned with the much-needed fuel. His family, still trembling with fear, recounted the eerie experience they had endured. John could hardly believe their story, but he knew one thing for certain. Their road trip would never be the same again. The highway, once a symbol of adventure, now held a dark secret that they would never forget. And the memory of that night would forever haunt their family's travels. Story 2. Once upon a chilling night in the small, close-knit town of Brooksville, 4 friends found themselves trapped in a horrifying nightmare that unfolded after a birthday celebration. They had gathered to celebrate Sarah's 25th birthday, and the festivities were filled with laughter, music, and dancing. As the clock ticked past midnight, the party showed no signs of slowing down. It was Emma, one of Sarah's closest friends, who first noticed the dwindling gas gauge in Sarah's car as they continued to celebrate into the early hours. The house was in a secluded part of town, and the nearest gas station was miles away. Laughter turned to concern as the friends realized their predicament. Sarah decided to take charge. She, along with her friends Emma, Jake, and Maya, decided to set out to find a gas station that was open at this hour. They piled into her car and embarked on their eerie journey into the dark, deserted roads of Brooksville. The town had always had an air of mystique about it, but on this night, the atmosphere felt downright sinister. The winding roads were cloaked in inky darkness, and the howling wind added to the eeriness. Their headlights cut through the gloom, casting eerie shadows on the gnarled trees that lined the road. As they ventured deeper into the desolate countryside, the friends began to feel a creeping unease. The moon was hidden behind a shroud of heavy clouds, leaving the landscape obscured and unwelcoming. Emma, who had a penchant for the supernatural, couldn't help but share some local legends she had heard about the town. "These woods are rumored to be haunted by the spirits of the early settlers," Emma said, her voice trembling. "They say strange things happen here at night, and sometimes people disappear without a trace." Nervous laughter rippled through the car, but there was a palpable tension in the air. Maya glanced out of the window and spotted a dilapidated farmhouse in the distance. Its sagging roof and shattered windows looked like something out of a horror movie, and they passed by it in uneasy silence. They continued down the winding road, growing increasingly anxious as the gas gauge crept closer to empty. The dark, winding road seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions, and the world outside had taken on a surreal, otherworldly quality. Then, a haunting sight appeared on the horizon. A flickering, rusted sign for a gas station emerged from the darkness like a ghostly apparition. With relief, Sarah pulled into the station's decrepit parking lot. It was eerily silent, and the dim, buzzing neon lights created eerie shadows that danced in the breeze. The friends exited the car and made their way to the ancient gas pumps. They were surprised to find that they still seemed to be operational. As Sarah began to refuel the car, Jake wandered over to a weathered payphone mounted on the wall, the cord dangling eerily in the breeze. "Check this out, guys," he called out. "An old payphone. I haven't seen one of these in years." He lifted the receiver, and to their shock, it emitted a low, crackling dial tone, a sound straight from the past. The friends exchanged puzzled glances. But then a voice on the other end whispered a single word. "Leave." Startled, they turned to see a group of eerie, shadowy figures emerge from the darkness. Their faces were obscured, and they moved with an eerie, synchronized grace. They approached slowly, their intent unclear. Panic surged through the friends as they hurriedly retreated to their car. But as they scrambled inside, the figures continued to close in on them. Their hollow eyes stared blankly through the car windows, and the friends could see that their faces were contorted in expressions of eternal suffering. Sarah turned the key in the ignition, praying for the engine to roar to life. But it remained stubbornly silent. The figures inched closer, their whispers now a cacophony of eerie voices that sent shivers down the friends' spines. In a final act of desperation, Sarah tried the old payphone. The voice on the other end, now clearer and more urgent, pleaded with her to leave, repeating that there was no escape from the sinister entities that surrounded them. With trembling hands, Sarah slammed down the receiver and tried the car's ignition once more. This time, the engine roared to life, and with tires screeching, they sped away from the gas station. The horrifying figures disappeared into the darkness, their ghostly wails fading into the night. As they left the sinister gas station behind, the friends couldn't shake the feeling that they had encountered something otherworldly, something that would forever haunt their memories of Sarah's ill-fated birthday party. Once they were back home, safe and sound, they gathered in Sarah's living room, their faces pale and haunted. As they recounted the night's events, they couldn't help but wonder what had happened in that eerie, abandoned gas station. The unanswered questions remained. But one thing was certain. They had ventured into a nightmarish realm, one that defied explanation, and they were lucky to have escaped with their lives. And as they finally found solace in the safety of Sarah's home, the memory of that harrowing night served as a chilling reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved, and some places should never be visited after dark. Story 3. In a quiet, small town nestled in the embrace of rolling hills, there lived a woman named Claire. She was a hard-working nurse who dedicated her life to caring for the sick and the wounded. Claire's shifts were long and grueling, often extending well into the dead of night. It was during one such late-night shift that she found herself embroiled in a chilling and horrifying tale. One particularly frigid winter night, Claire's shift ended at the ungodly hour of 3 a.m. Exhausted and drained, she longed for the warmth of her home and her comfortable bed. The drive back was routine, a familiar route she had taken countless times before. However, the harsh winter had a different plan that night. As Claire made her way down the desolate, snow-covered road, she glanced at her fuel gauge and felt a pang of dread. It was far lower than she had anticipated. The nearest gas station was miles away, and anxiety settled in as she considered the possibility of running out of gas in the dead of night, far from help. The moments stretched into eternity, and Claire's car sputtered and coughed before finally coming to a standstill on the side of the road. She was out of gas. The cold seeped into her bones as she cursed her bad luck. There were no other vehicles in sight, and her phone displayed a no service message, leaving her feeling isolated and vulnerable. With a heavy heart, Claire decided to leave her car behind and make the long, treacherous walk to the nearest gas station. She wrapped herself in her coat and stepped out into the icy darkness. The only sounds were the crunch of snow under her boots and the distant howling of the wind. As she trudged through the snow-covered landscape, Claire's imagination began to play tricks on her. She thought she saw eerie shapes moving in the shadows and heard strange, indistinct whispers carried by the biting wind. Panic gripped her, and she quickened her pace, her heart pounding. The journey felt endless, and Claire's surroundings became increasingly surreal. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows that danced on the snow-covered ground. She stumbled upon an abandoned, dilapidated farmhouse that stood as a grim sentinel in the moonlight, and shivers ran down her spine. She had no choice but to venture inside in search of shelter as the cold threatened to overwhelm her. The interior was even more haunting, with shattered windows, creaking floorboards, and cobwebs that draped like curtains. The air was heavy with the weight of memories long past, and Claire couldn't help but feel that she was not alone. As she ventured deeper into the farmhouse, the whispers grew louder, the voices becoming clearer. She was not alone. The spirits of those who had once lived here surrounded her. Their ethereal presence an undeniable reality. They spoke of tragic events, of a life filled with despair and sorrow. Claire listened in terror, her breath misting in the icy air. Claire knew she needed to continue her journey, to reach the gas station and escape the haunting farmhouse. With newfound determination, she pushed onward, through the dilapidated rooms, and out into the frigid night once more. Hours later, she finally reached the gas station, her feet numb and her body trembling from both the cold and the ghostly encounter. Claire filled a canister with fuel and returned to her car, eager to leave the nightmarish farmhouse and its spectral inhabitants behind. As her engine roared to life, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that the spirits she had encountered that night had somehow imparted a piece of their tragedy onto her. The horrifying encounter would forever haunt her dreams, a chilling reminder that the darkness of the night can reveal the hidden horrors that lurk just beyond the edges of our reality. We hope you enjoyed those spine-tingling tales as much as we did. If you're still feeling a little spooked, don't worry, you're not alone. But before we say goodbye, we have a few things to ask of you. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you found these stories as chilling as we did. It really helps our channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. There are plenty more eerie adventures waiting for you right here, so you don't want to miss out. Share this video with your friends and fellow thrill seekers. After all, spooky stories are best enjoyed with company, right? That's a wrap for today, but stay tuned for more bone-chilling content in the future. Until next time, remember to keep your flashlight handy, your wits about you, and always be ready for the unexpected. Thanks for joining us on this haunting journey. Take care and may your nights be eerily entertaining. See you in the next video.